You know what I mean? I'm not that repeatable. You're really good like that. But you probably improvise like crazy, you know?
Yes, of course. Yeah, of course I do. Right. Because I can feel the audience. So everything I do is like navigating a boat, you know? So I kind of weave in and out. But let's talk more about the that whole I mean, you were really got great when you were talking about what's right now and where we're going into like the Aquarian age. You know, can you spiel it back and talk about, you know, because my basic thing, and this all started with good and evil, right? It's really where this started, right? And I said there is no good or evil, and I said that because it's one of those things I say to people. It's like I can annoy people, but I do it on purpose because it's like my sonar. You know, I ping that out, and then I see how I kind of do it to you. Like I said it to you, and you went off to the races about good and evil, right?
Yeah.
Right. So
I couldn't do it right now. It's just
oh Lord, I missed it.
Right now, my energy went down. It's like a little wavy ride. You take good weed and you ride this
wavy ride.
Talking to someone who's a philosophical person,
right.
It elicits that shit.
Right. So I guess I elicited that shit. So anyway, I'm going to go.
The idea of setting up a YouTube channel and getting 4 people to listen to my ranting, it's like a lot of effort. I want to set up something.
Well, that's why I just want to call you on the phone.
I think you have to add the Lucille Ball stories.
Yes. Oh, I'm going to.
What I'm going to do is
yes.
going to be Twitter stories.
Right. Okay. So I'm going to go right now, and I'm going to think about this, and I'll call you back later, okay?
Okay, see you.
Okay.
Bye.
So that's a friend of mine who's a real philosopher. I mean, a real philosopher, you know. He's read everything, written everything, and yet he, you know, me, I can be in this classic world. I've seen him get on top of tables and jump up and down and scream, you know, and he just wants to set people free. But and he, you know, the folks who can just shut their ego down and listen, he's brilliant. He is like beyond freaking brilliant, right? So, and that's and so you missed. I tried to come on while he was like on it. He had a 10-minute strip that was like, and it can be annoying because I read it. He's like screaming at me like I'm one of his students, you know, but he doesn't teach, you know. Because he just starts screaming, right? And so it doesn't go over big with the kids. Telling stories, they like that, right? So I'll start. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob. Your sensei here. And we had a nice little aperitif. And if he didn't want to, you know, get back into it, because he would talk about other stuff that he shouldn't talk about. So at least not on the World Wide Web. And I mean, you shouldn't, you know, he could too if he wanted to, because everything, he's one of the most honest guys I know. I mean, so he's not doing anything, you know, that's, you know, that people go, oh, that's terrible. But once he starts, you know, again, if I could just grab that one little 10-minute segment he was going on, because it was great. He was going on, and he's right. He was going on about. So we started off. You know, we're good buds. We've known each other a long time, and he knows that I'm one of the guys who will actually. You know, he goes, "You talk so much." Well, what people who really talk more than me tell me that I talk too much because, you know. And I'm into a conversation. I want to hear what you say. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon to you too. So, so I started off and we talk, and he knows I will bridge a subject to him that he can like kind of go up on, because otherwise we just talk about the family and blah 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 blah, right? And so, I said, I'm doing this, and he doesn't like, he's a 19th, early 20th century guy, right? And so he's Mr. Nietzsche, Heidegger. He's all of that crew, and the all the different schools that were in Europe. So he's a person of that, and he loves my stories, about things that he wants to hear about. So we were talking, I said good and evil. We started talking about that, and he was going on about Nietzsche and this and that, and that would have been good for you guys to hear. And basically, good and evil. When I say good and evil doesn't exist, well, that's he hates. That is a good and evil is a Christian motif, and to say that there is no good and evil is a real Christian motif. That is the poster boy of Christian, especially the Roman, the Holy Roman Empire. That was their big thing: good and evil, right? And they just kept rebranding it. Like in the 14th century, they called it courtly love. What was good and evil, right? And courtly love was supposed to be that thing what the king does, whether he does good things to the people or he totally treats them like slaves. And so he's one of the only guys who I can talk to that he's got a encyclopedic mind of all of that. Now I know it, and I can have a conversation. What I'd love to have with this guy is a conversation, but I'm like Tweety Bird. This is what I do. I know I can read him like a book. I can see where he's at, and I will know what 2 words to say that wing he goes off, and then I can't like navigate. It's like a fire hose, right? And I wanted to get him the fire hose, but then he shoots his wad and he's like, "I'm tired now. I can't." And so that's kind of where he is. And that's why I got off the phone, because the fire hose was turned off. But I'll try to. I won't be able to do it any service. I mean, I can give you the parameters of what we talked about, and then we can talk about it. And that's what I try to get my friends to talk on the thing here, so you guys can then get outside of just the conversations that we have on the chat. They're very sweet, and you guys do a great job. But I'm trying to push up the ladder there just a little bit. So basically, when I said there's no good or evil, right? So he went into the Heisenberg, and I can't pronounce all those German guys' names, but we'll just go with the guy who wrote Hess, Herman Hess, and just that's what pretty much everyone, every teenage person in my generation anyway read, Catcher in the Rye and A Stepping Wolf. Those were our 2 like, oh, I'm so enlightened now, But this guy, he's read everybody, and he can pronounce his names, and he can read it in German. And I mean, he is, I have a skill set, but and I constantly try to, get him. But and I wish he would write. And he talks about my stuff. He says, I forgot. I think it was Kafka. No, who's the other guy? Some guy. What he mentioned. He speaks so fast, I can't get it. My brain tape recorder moves quick, but not as fast as he can talk. That's an amazing thing. So, who was talking about? Kierkegaard? No. And Kant? No. Somebody wrote that poets are like prostitutes, because they have it wired in them this ability to see beauty and write it down, but then they go hawk it out as like hot dogs, and he had a great dissertation about that one too. And it's like I said, it's a fire hose. It's hard to stand in that fire hose, And very few people, I don't know anybody who can just sit there and take it except for me, right? And he likes my story, so he goes, tell me a story, and I'll tell him a story, and then I'll be that Tweety bird and say that thing that I know he would, open up the valve and he'll just shoot out, right? Otherwise, he really, he just likes to be at home and play with his dog, So, well, that's fine. That's good. He's got all these great thoughts in his head, and maybe I can talk about them. And so he was going on. So we talked about good and evil, and he explained why, there is good and evil, and there is. But this is when it kind of turns your head this way, because when you see one person's good being another person's evil, that's and he's right. That's in the Christian modality, and it's used to be a business plan to get people at each other's throats. But he's right. There is this, and I've known people, and I was telling them the story, and I've told you guys the story, and I'll make it short. So my little skill set. So in New York City, the great thing of being a New York boy, that was my town. Was I grew up in it, right, and I grew up in Harlem, which was the most. And again, if I have any talent, it's be the right place, right time. I'm Mr. Perfect Timing, and so I grew up there. My grandma, nice Italian grandma, always made great food. Brilliant, read every book in the universe, knew a ton of people because she had, been in New York City since the 1890s until she died in 1970. So that's a long time, and she not only genetically put into me because she people don't realize this, that the Celts, who the old crone was, she came from England, but she was a Celt, right? Um, you know, everyone I knew in Ireland and England who were tuned in were Celts. And there's a big difference between the Irish and the Celts, right? And there's folks in Germany who are Celts. And in Italy, in the islands off of Sardinia, the southern part of Italy, the boot, there are these islands, Sicily and well, Sicily's on mainland, but the Sicilian islands, and a number of those are Celtic. And so that's why in Italy you will find redheaded people with green eyes and alabaster skin and really beautiful, right? And so my grandma was one of them, right? And she married a Roman, super Roman. He would look like a centurion. He was a barber, right? Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant guy. Had the most exquisite barbershop in Rome, and he was one of the last barber surgeons in allopathic medicine. Why allopathic medicine really went sideways is the doctors were all the guys who pumped pills, even in the 19th century. The surgeons were considered like carpenters. They would just sew you up. If you had a broken bone, they'd put it together and sew you up. They were just mechanics, right? So the highfalutin rich people who went to medical school, who were doctors, medical doctors, MDs, they really didn't sew people up. They weren't surgeons, right? It wasn't until warfare, Civil War, that surgeons got their due because so many people were, dying from being blown up. So my grandfather, my father's father, he was a Roman, and he was 100% a barber surgeon. And the barber pole, you see red and white going up. What that was when they'd cut you up, and they'd also bleed people, right? And he knew a lot about bleeding, and there's a lot to bleeding that has, a real things aren't used and used for a long time because they don't work. It's the practitioner, right? And the problem with, and that's why they call it the practice of medicine. You're supposed to always be learning more and more, not staying to the same, card catalog. So that was my grandfather, always learning, always learning. And so lots of Americans came over. So, go back to the barber pole, red and white, right? Well, the barbers would, bleed people and then put these bandages on them. And after the wound would heal, cauterize, and not bleed anymore, they take the bandage up and the people go on their way. Then they'd wash. First, they'd stick the bloodied bandages up in the sun to sanitize them because the water wasn't that sanitary. And so they would hang the bloodied, you know, bandages and towels and blankets, sheets up in the sun. And so you'd know a barber because there'd be all this bloody, bandages and blankets and towels and so that's where they got the barber pole from, right? And then they would do other cleansing things of that and put it the clean sheets up in the thing, right? And it's really fun. When I lived in Italy in the 70s and 60s, and you'd live in these towns, the people with they had the butcher, they had the dairy guy, they had the wine guy, and they had a pasta guy. And the pasta guy would roll this stuff out in sheets, like for as big as a bed, and hang them out to be hit by the sun, and we'd get them to a certain place where they could be worked, and then they'd slice them up and make them up into all different kinds of pastas. And there's a zillion different kinds of pastas. And so, anyway, my grandfather, who's he had a great, hospital in freaking Rome, right? He was the dude, number one guy. And so lots of Americans wanted my grandfather to come be their barber, right? They just thought get a shave, and he thought, freaking Americans were bored and stupid. The ugly American. J.P. Morgan came and went to his barbershop one time and got it and said, "Wow, you are the best." And they talked. He said, "Let's go have dinner." So they went and had dinner, and JP took him out to the best place in Italy. And JP actually, he was, the killing machine of industry. But why he was so successful, he was very good at listening to someone who knew what they were talking about. And so he said, at some point, you're going to come to New York and be my barber surgeon. Just be my barber and give me a shape. No, he said barber surgeon. He understood because J.P. Morgan had a nose. He had a childhood disease or a young adult disease that's kind of it's like shingles, but it's a different form of it. And his nose went, right? And he was thinking of my grandfather, like fixing that for him. But before that came around, J.P. liked, he realized that his ugly nose scared people. And he had black eyes. He had, not blue eyes, not brown eyes, not green eyes. He had freaking black eyes that had a red tinge to it, like he looked like a demon. He probably was. Sold the soul to the devil. Because you look at pictures of him when he was younger, handsome guy. Anyway, and J.P. Morgan basically was a shill for Rothschild. His father was in England. And he was his father was an investment banker. And so he get, all these rich English and Europeans to give him money to then JP went and bought up everything, right? Railroads, steel mills. He owned Edison. He owned Tesla. He owned Westinghouse. And that's why our technology base was stifled in 1891. And we could have been flying through space, right? Even though we are. And that's what J.P. Morgan did. Said, well, I'm going to let Tesla and those guys do all that shit they want to do, but in the dark. We're making a lot of money. Mr. Rockefeller's, my partner, and we're going to, yes, gasoline is the wrong energy source. Yes, it took lots of money and about 20 years to get gasoline to be a fuel for automobiles, because up until then, the automobile engine was designed to run on hemp, right? Diesel engine run on, because both engines, one was the internal combustion engine designed by this guy in France who had farms, and he was like getting into big farms and turning it into industry, and horses and plows didn't make it, right? And they had steam driven tractors, but that was too complicated. He invented the internal combustion engine. Him and a few of his slaves, because Europeans had slaves. They were called peons, right? So, or the proletariat. So, in Russia, the proletariat was the party's slaves. You live your life for the party. And the same with, Adolf Hitler, National Socialism. That was just a different form of communism, right? It's right in its name, National Socialism. And Marx said, first we have capitalism, then we have socialism, then we have communism, and then we have this enlightened state, right? He said it's a path, and he's right, but we're still stuck in crony capitalism, and that's what communism was. That's what Marx wrote about, in Das Kapital and his whole material dialectic, because he took the spirit out of everything and just, everything was stuff, right? So that was J.P. Morgan, 100%. Everything was stuff, but he was smart enough guy to listen to everybody. And so he didn't pressure my godfather and my grandfather to come right then and then. He said, but you're going to come to New York and be. He said, you're going to. And my, okay. And JP he spent a lot of time there and buying up art, right? And so he just kept working on my grandpa. And then he finally gave him an offer. He says, there's this guy, Waldorf, Colonel Waldorf or Captain Waldorf. It was a guy who played the Civil War both ways and made a lot of money and built hotels. And he was going to build his grand hotel in New York when New York is becoming the empire, the Empire State, right? It's becoming the empire of the world. And so he was going to build Waldorf Astoria. And he had a lot of money, but JP had a lot more. So JP was his silent partner. And he wanted, JP had this nice big house and he had his art. JP had a lot of real estate in New York. But he wanted a hotel that he could go, leave his wife and his family and go whore and drink and hang with the boys. So he invested in the Waldorf. He got the whole top friggin' floor. And he lit it up with electricity. First big hotel in New York to have electricity. And, he had elevators, Otis's elevators. And so the lobby was like a castle, gigantic, amazing, beautiful, truly amazing place. And so you walked in this, amazing entrance. And they had a place where you could, it wasn't like door, sidewalk, curb, road. It had this, the road was the avenue. It was on an avenue. It was on Fifth Avenue. Avenue was here, and it had this big thing, and it had a big rodeo over it, so your carriage would come in there. You wouldn't get wet if it was raining or snowing. And, you walked up these amazing marble steps, and you walked into this lobby that was bigger than the Sistine Chapel. It was like amazing, right? And glass everywhere. The same architect that did Penn Station, or no, Grand Central Station, or either one of those. Both. I think he did both. He was like the train station was the new cathedral of industry, and that was this guy's. I forgot the architect's name, but he was well known. But say he did the Waldorf Astoria, and he did it on the same grand scale. So go get pictures of. They tore down. I forget which Penn Station when I was a kid was as grand as that. They tore that down. They stuck a Madison Square Garden on top, and then they put a office building on top. And totally it looked like a shoebox with windows and this round record and but that beautiful cathedral of industry was gone. But they did keep Grand Central. And that I think, but they stuck the Pan Am building on top of it. It was like, anyway. So that's the Waldorf Astoria. It looks like that, right? And so it had these mezzanines. It had a big lobby and a big thing, and they had these mezzanines of restaurants and stores and all. It was like the first shopping center, right, or the first mall in this hotel. And only the big auction house. They had um, everything super, the best, the most richest. Were they're the only people who had stores in there. That little, the Dollar Tree wasn't in there, and a whole bunch of like it was like being on the Charge de Lyon. That was the idea that instead of having this thing that they had in Paris, they had it in a hotel, and it was these mezzanines, right? And my grandfather got the number one mezzanine. When you walked in, you saw his thing, and it was barbershop, and women didn't have a beauty salon. My grandfather, well, the women rule the world. I'm going to have a beauty salon, right? And so he had both. And then he was, because he's a chemist and a surgeon and herbalist, he's making all kinds of stuff to sell to not only to the women but to the men. Men started putting this stuff on. Oh boy, I look better. And that was my grandfather, right? And so he came over, and when the Italians came over, they were, the black people were. They went to Africa. They got the black people. But first they had Indians. They tried to make them slaves, and basically the Indians didn't go for it, and they had to kill all 600 million of the Indians. And then, so they needed slaves. And this, thanks to Christopher Columbus, who sailed the ocean blue, he didn't just, come, and he found Haiti. He didn't go to New Jersey. He found Haiti. And it was warm, it was nice, and there were 6 million Indians there, and they were, the Indians went out and got them, brought them there, and took care of them and fixed them up, and and Chris wrote in his log, these people are great. They're tall, they're beautiful, they're handsome, they're generous, they're really nice. They'll make great slaves, right? With 10 men with muskets, I could take this place over. Well, he brought 20 of them back and showed them to the Queen of Spain. They proceeded to die of all the diseases that were in Europe, right? And no one quite twigged on that one. And then about 2 years later, instead of coming back with 10 men with guns, he came back with 3,000 shock troop soldiers of Spain with guns and cannon, and took over, what is now Haiti. And Haiti... There's Haiti. It's an island. It was Hispaniola was an island, and Haiti is just half of it, and Dominican Republic is the other. And this is where all the rich people live, all the country clubs and golf courses are, and everything's greener than green. This is like a shithole, septic tank. Anyway, thanks to Christopher Columbus, we have that. So between him killing them and them dying of the European diseases, he wiped out 6 million indigenous people of Haiti, of Hispaniola, in about 10 years. And so Africa was just over there, so he took his boats over there, and Chris was the guy who started bringing the slaves to America, not the Dutch. Dutch turned it into a corporation, the Dutch West Indian Company. Those guys had their own army, right? I guess, General Motors has its own army. It's called Blackwater, or it was called Blackwater. But anyway, and, basically the military, the corporations owned the army, right? So anyway, what is our little good and evil? So it's a real obvious thing, as a business plan. And the Romans, who were the big conquerors, they just they took over everything. And Alexander, he was more or less a Greek, not so much a Roman. The Romans wanted to claim him, but he ran in the middle. I worked, and this was a story I was going to talk about. And I'm getting hungry, and I haven't eaten anything, and so I'm going to go get something. And put you over there for a sec. Move a little bit. Now, because it's like accompanying my little room in there because it's small and insulated, but out here in the wide land of John Birmingham land, you know. John Birmingham land. Let's check outside. Yeah, still there, but it's still cold. But I would say it's gone down by more than half. Hopefully, let's see. My poor car is like frozen. So good and evil, right? So there's a real deal about it, and it does exist. But it's go back and look how the Phoenicians kind of tried to describe it, that the Greeks tried to describe it, is that there is this mean, this balance. And when you have balance, it kind of works. And they were talking about the dark and the light, right? And aesthetics, and that's why I want to start this thing called the Aesthetic Institute, the Adept and Appropriate Aesthetic Institute, or the Institute of Adept and Aesthetic Technology, because it's all technology, because we are technology. Anything in this three-dimensional mud puppet universe is technology. We were manufactured. You have to realize that. Now, our spirit, that was not manufactured, because that is this twin flame between the burning bush, love's co-creation, right? So the Greeks and the Phoenicians and people before them, it's all about this golden mean, this balance, right? This flow. And when you interrupt the flow with evil, bad thoughts, disgusting actions, that's meaning disrupting, dissing the ease. And what is dissing the ease? It's disease. So right now, we're in a disease mode. And see, the only reason we're still here is that it's in this wave, right? And when we're up here, we're doing our best. When we're down here, we're kind of like where we are. But we're now, we've come out of the ickiest, really, and that it's been going on for close to, 6,000 years. This Piscean age, it was the real kicker of, and Pisces, this free-flowing, water, fishy thing that it should not be as ick as it is, but it has been because it's affected by, Mars and war. So that's what we've been living through. That's what we're at the dregs of. And that's why, the tales of war and the end of time and blah, blah, blah is, right in front of us. But it's not. We're coming out of it. The real ickiness was this crossover period between the Piscean age and the Aquarian age, and we had this Venn diagram, and that kind of started with like the Crimean War, and it's up to now. But we are totally 100% out of the Piscean age, and we are 100% totally in the Aquarian age. So So that's where we're in. And my friend, the philosopher, I'm going to call him Socrates. And so Socrates, we'll just call him Soc. He's got this going, but he is totally, he's not enamored. I don't know if that's right. But it was this period in between 1890 and 1930, where technology, philosophy, politics kind of theology kind of got put in a blender, and Kafka, all Haydn, all those Germans I can't with my mouth, with my jaw going this way. I can't quite, and having no teeth, I can't always. And that my that little my cochlear, not my cochlear, but my cochlear nerve, and the other nerve that gets your brain, your ear, and your mouth to say words, right? By the nun in first grade, Sister Holy Rosegate. And so there's certain, I can get into stuttering, right? And so I have to be real particular. And so when my friend really starts speaking, I can speak quickly and I can listen quick, but I have a tape recorder in my head. I have to it records what he says, and I have to put it down 10 speeds to okay. So it can be, and no one listens to him. I mean, he's brilliant. And then he gets really frustrated because he thinks no one's listening to him. And so he knows, I know him long enough, he knows that I'm listening to him, but, he'll say, oh, tell me a story. And then I tell him a story. He likes that. But when I tell a story, like right now, I'm talking, talking. And what has, they say, looks epic. Oh, the snow looks epic? What looks epic? What's epic? Where are we going with epicness? Huh. Ceiling? The ceiling? This little hole here, this whole ceiling was, I was away, I wasn't even here. And it was summertime. And when I would leave in the winter, I would turn off the water. And so the pipes wouldn't freeze. I drain them out. But it was an arduous kind of thing, right? Because George, who built this place, didn't, it's like an art piece. He had no experience in plumbing, and he had this attitude, I know everything, so I can do anything. And he never did anything the way that it really should be done, right? So you don't always have to fix it all the time. So anyway, I went away in the summertime for, and normally I would stay here because it's green and beautiful, and Inga lived here. Anyway, the hot water heater kind of exploded. And when I came back, it was like a waterfall. So this whole ceiling was gone. The water was going out. Luckily, everything went down the steps and out the door that way, right? And everything's concrete. So the only thing that got really screwed up was this ceiling, and the ceiling, because it also did the ceiling out there in the hall. So when John bought this place, I never fixed it. I just cleared all the crap out. And I said, oh, look, I can now replumb this place and rewire it someday. Anyway, I never did. I just kind of fixed it so it worked. And because this wasn't really the house I lived in, I lived more or less, I had some houses on the other side of the county, and I had a nice house there. But this was my getaway and my warehouse. I just threw all my shit here. And I made art here and had parties here and did stuff like that. And so so that's why that's there, is because, so when John was here and we fixing stuff up, he would get contractors in here and he'd get totally wigged out. And he'd throw them out. You're fired. And so a lot of the stuff here, because I had a emotional attachment to this place, I helped John fix up. I mean, that was one reason why I was here for, 2 years. And it wasn't at the large age of John. It was because I was really sick, and I could do that. And there was a kid who lived in the building down the road a bit, Alex, and he and I would, and we would just, this had to be done or that had to be done, and John would be, I'm working so hard, and then Alex and I would say, here, John, let us help you, and we would, so we did this, right, and Alex and I and John, he has amazing skill set. See that whole wall there, right? He put all of that sheetrock on that, and he looked at it, and me, I'd have to make a template and then cut that out. He just looked at it and drew a thing on the sheetrock, cut it, fit perfect. It was like unbelievable. It was like a miracle. It's like, holy moly. But that was all he did. We did the rest of the ceiling, which is okay because that's kind of, so I'm pretty good with mud, but that's only one coat. Normally you put 2 or 3 coats up there, but that was only one coat. So that was that. And here comes John. It'll be the John show now. Hey, Johnny. What's happening, bud? Oh, that's good. You hungry? I was about to make something to eat. You don't have to eat. I'm going to eat, but you don't have to. You don't have to. I'm going to.
I don't know if I can keep going with this anymore.
Knowing what? Well, you want to kill yourself?
No. No, I don't.
No. Okay.
No, I
Well,
don't.
that's good. Because you always say you want to kill yourself.
No, I don't. Oh, no, I don't. No.
Really?
What's that smell? Smells good.
Yeah, it'll smell even better soon. I mean, it's tiring doing the same thing over and over again. So yeah.
Did you just smell like a hippie festival man that's at Lollapalooza and his sweaty body and he's in the festival and you rub up against his sweat and he's like, yeah. And he's at he doesn't have his hair in his back or something, but like, not like that stupid commercial and that's a different thing. But Lollapalooza, like some man at a festival and sweaty and like
John,
he accidentally touches his body
it's 40
and
degrees.
close to all these other people in the concert.
John, it's 40
Or
degrees.
show or whatever it's called at Lollapalooza. That's what it was like for me when I was 12 years old.
Okay.
12 years old, I went to Lollapalooza and I got the smell of somebody's body.
Yeah.
And it was like an older guy, a little bit older, but like you.
Uh-huh.
He was almost exactly like you now.
Uh-huh.
And he had no shirt on or something like that, and like he was at a hippie festival. But Lollapalooza these days.
Were you at Lollapalooza?
1992.
Were you at Lollapalooza?
1992 or something like that, or 1990. I went to the first Lollapalooza.
You did?
Yeah.
How old were you?
It was different back then. It wasn't like it was amazing.
How old were you?
I think. I was 12.
You went to Lollapalooza when you were 12?
Yeah.
Your
I was
parents
12.
your parents took you there?
No, I went with I think it was my sister. My older sister, her boyfriend,
right?
And there's like James Addiction that played there when they're still like kind of the young James Addiction of the 80s almost. Mm-hmm. But it was like 1990, I think, or 91.
Right.
And it was pretty amazing. They had a sideshow. They had this weird sideshow. This guy that would like hang himself by hooks by his skin.
Yeah.
Hang there.
Yeah.
And it was called the Jim Rose Circus Sideshow.
Yeah.
I don't know if those people are bad or good or what.
No, it was just
back then it was so new and different. It was so new and different, and everything was. It was like the first Lollapalooza there was, and it was. Then later, I went to another Lollapalooza and saw the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Where was the first one?
You want to hear a weird story about the Red Hot Chili Peppers?
No, I do, but I want to know one thing. When you were 12, you went to Lollapalooza. Where was it?
There's a
what
guy.
City was it? What town? What state? Where was it?
Somewhere maybe in New York or something, or
not
New
Jersey.
Maybe New Jersey.
Maybe New Jersey.
Somewhere north of Roanoke, I think.
Okay.
And we went with my sister's boyfriend and my sister Krista, my older sister. Mm-hmm. I was like 12, and I think it was. I don't know where it is, but I may have the ticket somewhere in my may have it upstairs, but I'm not walking up there now.
Right.
So they started talking, and
so tell us the story.
The worry made it so I couldn't walk as much. It hurt my foot or leg or something like that.
So let's hear the story.
When I'm feeling happy and in my element and not worried and stressed,
right.
Then my body feels way better.
Right.
And I've been under like this stress for a while, more than normal. And I don't want to think about it, but
tell me the story. You said you want to hear a story. Let's hear the story. The second Lollapalooza story. You said I went to and I saw the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
You want but there's a smell. It was like an odor of sweat and stuff. It wasn't bad. It was really good. Like I would be the guy now if I could smell that way and be not that same person. Me, it'd be me. I'd be me. You know, I wouldn't be the dude. I wouldn't be. Or maybe it's like you who would be like that guy. But I wouldn't want to be that way. And because there's somebody else. But if I smelled that way, that'd be okay, and it'd be pretty amazing to like share that with or show that to Rowan. Like it was like some man. The festival wasn't at all sexual,
right?
But you'd be close to other human bodies, and they wouldn't hurt you. They wouldn't hurt you. It was one of those festivals where people didn't get hurt.
Yep.
And it wasn't like it was a little different. It was like kind of like the Rolling Stones and the Beatles. The difference between that, this was more like the Beatles, like from the old days. Like the Rolling Stones, if there was a big concert, and there's some big mean bouncers or Hell's Angels or something, they might hurt somebody a little bit. Like it wasn't that type of concert. Like Metallica, I got hurt. A big Metallica concert around the same year. They did something to me. I don't have any problem with it now, but they I don't know if they do that now with Metallica, but it was like something. This big mean guy, this huge Mexican guy that must have been 6 foot something, came here doing this like in a Metallica concert, and I was moshing in the pit. I was like 12 years old.
You were moshing in the pit?
Yeah, but this is the good concert, Lollapalooza.
Right.
And that's Metallica might be good too, but this was Lollapalooza.
Right.
And the first one I went to was really so fun. Right. It was so fun. It was warm out. People were sweating and stuff. There wasn't anything about sex really, but they had women there too, and you'd be close to other people's bodies, but we didn't do anything like try to touch anyone's bodies. But when I was a teenager, some of my friends and stuff at this concert, they grabbed the old girl's butt and stuff, and then when we were like 15 or something like that,
right?
And but it wasn't that bad. We were kids like they were, and but it was different. It wasn't like the but at the Lollapalooza, the first Lollapalooza concert, it was really amazing. It was really good.
So what did
Living
you?
Color? Oh wait,
What did you like?
Color.
What did you like?
The band Living Color played there. I think the real band Living Color from the '80s,
right?
Played there.
What was your most amazing?
Jane's Addiction.
Some
other bands.
What really? I mean, what did it feel like?
It was amazing.
What did it feel
like? They
like?
had places where you'd go to a table that had all kinds of cool stickers. You've never seen anything like almost before, and you could like something new and different they didn't have in regular towns and places that people would live and stuff. It was like something new and different. Like when I went up to New York City, sometimes they had like when we went on vacation or something, they had like new and different things. But this was Lollapalooza. I don't know where it was exactly. Could have been outside DC. Could have been in the place they had Woodstock. I don't know where it was. It was somewhere, I think, up north.
Was it a rural or urban place? Was it in a cityscape or was it in a country?
It was like a countryside kind of place, or a giant open field, huge open field, like 100 or 200,000 people or something like that, or 80,000 at least. So there were so many people walking around for maybe miles in the concert. And that was the thing, you had to walk, but you could sit down too. And I don't know if they had people in tents or not. I don't recall. I think I don't know if it wasn't an overnight thing. It was a 1 day thing or something like that. And they must have had, it was amazing. And I wanted to get Rowan to go to one of those things and know what that smell was of that man. There was like a man in the concert, kind of strong, a little bit like kind of like you, a little older but not that old, and he had his shirt off and he was sweating and he had a smell. There's a smell, but it wasn't bad. It was like
a mush,
and you might accidentally hit his body and get sweat on you and stuff when you're like close to other people and you're like really close to other people and then you never got hurt. like no one ever got hurt there, and it was amazing. You got to be close to other people's bodies and stuff, and you get the smells of different things. Like they'd make food, they'd had these different things there that were like, they had this sideshow with the weird different shows. They had things that they give away. You could buy T-shirts, or they might give away T-shirts. Some people might like throw T-shirts to you for free, or like these different cool things. And but it was that guy in there who had that smell, and it was like a good smell, so much that it reminded me of the concert, but it wasn't sexual at all. But and then I think I got to see Jane's Addiction, and the way they used to sound live was like something. When I was growing up, it was something special. But now I don't know what they're like as much. I can't judge them, but it may be a little sinful, but I don't know. And it may not be for me these days. And I'm more really into God and Jesus, but I don't know. For some people, it might be okay. I don't know. And but I don't know. That was just Jane's Addiction. They used to be my favorite band. They were, and wow, was it something about their live music was really good. Something they did on stage, like he almost did a ritual on stage. Something to make it like, wow, it was like this emotion that the music created. It was like Summertime Rolls is one of my favorite songs. So sad, like this time. Like when I listened to it, it was the 90s, but they had played these live shows in LA and stuff.
Uh-huh.
And I had their bootleg live albums. I don't know, they just sold them in stores.
Right.
And I used to kind of love the music, but it was wrong to love the music.
Why?
But I don't know, because it was a thing. But it made me feel this emotion that I got from their music. And that was one of the reasons why I wanted to play music, was to create this emotion. And that's what I called my music when I was 15. That's what I aspired to do with my music, create emotion.
So why didn't you?
And they started calling it emo after I went to LA and maybe talked about with other people, kind of played music a little, and they started calling that other music emo, emotional. But this was before that. This was before they ever called anything emotional. And
You were ahead of your time.
In 98 or 99 or 2000, there's emotion. Emo meant something different. It was underground. It wasn't as known.
Right.
And there's this kid who played emo music. It was different then. It was his own genre. It wasn't what it became when they call it emo.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this kid who's Asian at my college, and he played emo. And I kind of knew what it was. And it was different back then. It wasn't what we know as emo now. It wasn't like kids with like black hair and white makeup and crying black makeup or something like that. It wasn't that. It was more its own genre. It was like kind of like the guitars that Kurt Cobain played, and it was like a little different. It was kind of underground. It was like a new category they came up with, and I was aware of it. But before that, I wanted to play emotional music. I wanted to do original emotion, create original emotion with my music. That was my intent. That was my intent, to create original emotion, to make people sad, like a longing for a time gone, and really sad when they hear it, like almost.
So why don't you do that now?
Well, I did it a little bit with my film Rebel Fish, and some of the music that I recorded in Rebel Fish, and maybe some of my music, but I'd have to maybe die or something like that for people to really.
Why? You, John, you're living. There's a portion of your life.
I don't care about my work in film as much to die for it. It's not worth dying for.
No, you don't have
That's
to.
not really my main work.
But you can express
God's work is my main work. That would be more selfish and not as much God's work.
God's work,
I really want to do while I'm alive and get to feel while I'm alive, like some of the J's. That's kind of wrong. I don't really. That's not my main thing that I want to do. I want to do God's work. And I want to be okay.
Jesus suffered on the cross, John.
I don't want to suffer on the cross right now.
No, you don't. But you can make music that enables people to understand.
I don't want to be that much like Jesus that I have to suffer right now and die. I'm afraid to do that.
Okay.
I'd probably get in heaven if I did something like that and trusted God and Jesus and be willing to suffer if I had to. And
Right.
really, if I had to suffer and die, I don't want to die.
Well,
that way.
you don't have to die, John. Art is not about dying.
It's sad because I maybe that would have been a better life for me if I had died that way.
No, but you
I
don't have to die.
I want my kids to be okay.
No, you
I
don't.
want my kids to be okay, however that's called, not bud or anything. I want my kids to be okay.
Right.
I want my kids to be okay. That's more important than my work on Earth.
Okay.
But here's a cool story about the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Okay, tell the story.
This was at the second Lollapalooza before it didn't really sell out, but it was. I think Lollapalooza is still good, and Coachella is a good one that's kind of new, and Coachella is like a new one that would be like that. I'd like to bring my son to. Coachella is the new one, pretty much.
Where are they doing that?
I think it's in California. I don't really know, but I think it's in California. But Coachella would be the new one, and there may be other festivals like that.
Where do they do it?
The same.
Where do they do it?
Like
where in out in the country or out in the city or?
I don't know, but I do know Decca, who lives here and works as a teacher here. She went to California to go to Coachella with her family, and they stayed. And I told her the Chateau Marmont would be a good place to stay because it's where famous people are.
Did you stay there?
And stuff. It's like a 5-star hotel, like a really
What city is that? San Francisco?
That's LA. That happens to be LA. She happened to go there, and she's like one of the people who fits in really well. And out in Roanoke, like she teaches at one of the public schools. She's one of the ones who's like.
George and Inga were her
okay
grandparents. George and Inga were her grandparents.
Yeah, George and Inga were really her grandparents, and she's one of my friends. And Skip came here, her father came here, and
he helped build this place.
Yeah, and he came here before he died to look at the work I did and look at the house.
Oh, he did. What did he say?
Yeah, he sat down on my weightlifting bench upstairs. He didn't even know I weightlifted it with or anything. He didn't even think about any of that, I guess. And he talked about, I didn't know, but he has his own house too that he really worked on for like way more.
He built it from the ground up.
What house? That house that he owns?
He built from the ground up.
What does it look like?
Amazing.
I heard he has all these interesting things that he got in various places, and they're in the house, and he built this amazing house. Took like 20 years or something like that to build.
Right.
Yeah, I'd like to see what it looks like. I'd like to see what it looks like and meet Decca's mom.
Yep.
Mishka's sister. I know her name, but I gotta get my kids. And it's not as important as like.
Well, keep going on with the story. The amazing story, the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
But they're good. I hope they're
Red
okay.
Hot
I might have to leave this house or something. It wasn't my dream to work on a house this much, but he did. He did. He liked it. And he enjoyed it, and that's what he chose to do. And he did some really amazing stuff with it. Stuff, but it was something I had to do. It wasn't something that I kind of wanted to though. There's a time when I thought, I want to buy an old mansion that would need a bunch of work, and I thought it'd be easy to do the work, and I'd do it in a few months, and that'd be it. He'd work with some people, pay him like my dad did, and they'd finish a house in 2 months. It was done, and it looked like new. And so when I worked with my dad, that's how the houses would go. He'd do it in 2 months. It would look brand new. It would look brand new, like brand new. I mean, and we worked with other men. And I was one of the people that worked in the house, and we did that a bunch. And he'd do it in 2 months, and then I thought I had to get on my own, and I tried to do it, and it took me 1 year of mostly doing it all myself, 12 hours a day. I thought it would take 2 weeks. This one's already pretty close to done, and I was still working on it months later. It was awful. It was an awful existence. I looked forward to moving out to the woods one day where I could be with my kids and do videos. And I could just do videos out in the woods away from society, and I thought my YouTube videos would go really big. And instead, I got this house, which needed 4 years of full-time work. Full-time work, 5 hours and something a day, not 12 hours a day. And then I got to and then here's the cool thing about Lollapalooza too, about Red. You want to see something kind of weird about Red Hot Chili Peppers? What they did?
What they do?
This is kind of weird. They told everyone at the festival Red Hot Chili Peppers is playing. We were expecting Red Hot Chili Peppers, the real Red Hot Chili Peppers. They never once said that anything may be different from the real Red Hot Chili Peppers playing a big concert to everybody. They never said anything different. They came out on stage and it was like far away enough that they put a different Anthony Kiedis on stage who was a lookalike because he didn't feel like playing or for whatever reason he didn't play. Right. Flea was there. I know that was Flea. Chad Smith was on drums. I think John Frusciante, but I'm not sure. I think this was before they had different guitarists and stuff. I think it was John Frusciante. I know it was Flea. I know it was Chad Smith on drums. And the lead singer was a lookalike fake Anthony Kiedis. I know he was a different person. I could tell the entire time. And he sounded different. And he was like pretending like he was singing the songs like he was Anthony Kiedis. And it wasn't Anthony Kiedis at all. And they pretended that was the real Red Hot Chili Peppers that everybody saw at the big concert. It was Flea, Chad Smith, some fake Anthony Kiedis, and John Frusciante. So, but they may have said, I don't know, there may have been a reason for doing it or whatever. He paid someone as a studio musician to play for him, which may have been really Red Hot Chili Peppers. So, Anthony Kiedis may have had a reason for doing it, but it was like so. I'm not against Anthony Kiedis. He's really close to Flea. Mm-hmm. And I met the drummer one time at Home Depot. And I was with Danica.
In California?
Yeah. But she wasn't with me at Home Depot. She was at home in her apartment. He happened to be online at Home Depot standing behind me. Chad Smith, the guy that looks like Will Ferrell. Mm-hmm. And he was buying some part for his Camaro. And I had listened to him growing up and made my drums look like his and learned how to play some of my stuff from him. But I learned from different drummers. Primus. They were one of my. Primus was that comes. I don't know what they're doing now. They may be kind of sinful or who knows what. And I don't want to be like that band. Just some famous band that you don't know how much they sin or how good and kind they are. But then I don't know. It's like not something particular. I think it'd be the coolest thing. Hi. I guess I'll eat food. Yeah, it's a shame because I like to be in really good shape, but this is what God wants me to do is eat food, I think.
Well, we all have to eat food.
I know.
It's like a fuel for our bodies. What you eat, when you eat it, how much you eat.
Yep. Please, God, bless this food in Jesus' name. Amen.
I hope.
Amen. What would I do out there in a restaurant? Fit in so they don't fucking hurt me if I did. I'm not gonna have some crazy ass outburst. Hi. Hi. I'm not gonna be mean. I'm not gonna be mean about it. I'm gonna try to eat my food. Pretend that no one's watching me eating my food. I may have to go upstairs.
Okay.
I think that's the only food I can eat.
Okay. You can take that with you. Mm. You get a good night's sleep?
This shirt. Good old fat tits. Good old fat tits shirt. It feels like it looks that way. I can't even look at myself. I can cover up my body and get to enjoy food.
Well,
That was a Corey sound. Wherever the fuck that is, the Corey sound. I think it's a Corey sound. Is it a Corey sound?
I don't
Is it
know.
a Corey sound?
I don't know what
What
Corey
kind of
sounds
is that?
like.
Where does that come from?
I have no idea.
What is that? What is it? What is that?
I don't know.
What is it? I don't want to say that. That's not me.
Then don't say
That's
it.
me. That's someone I know who has some kind of influence in my life, and it sounds kind of wrong. It sounds kind of wrong. I don't want to make it sound like that. I wonder why.
Don't sound that way.
I wonder why I made it sound like that.
I have no idea. I couldn't tell you.
Tell you what. Put up your arms like this means you're a mannequin. You know what that means? We can break that shit and kill you. Because I'm one that isn't retarded. Because I'm the one that wasn't retarded since I knew you in high school. But guess what? You're the one that I say is a mannequin because I know. You know, I'm blind. Guess what? All I gotta do is this. Means you're a mannequin. I can break that shit because that ain't, you know, because I'm not retarded. But I can't say that shit like Trump saying, fuck you. Is that enough to get away with saying, don't call me a fucking mannequin arm again? Don't do that shit when I try to go in a grocery store to feel like myself. I think I should move. Fucking retard calling me that. Acting like he's going to break my fucking arms like a mannequin for just being in there being myself. That's how James Addiction said, for walking down the street being myself. You want to do that shit to me for looking good and feeling good about myself being myself? Because he dresses like a woman, because he thinks it look cool. He look cool in his clothes. It doesn't mean he's gay. And just for being his fucking self or whatever, I don't agree with that. Because that's why I won't do it. That's why I wouldn't call that person retarded, because I know he has a regular IQ. I know that person has a pretty regular IQ, maybe a little on the lower. I don't know. Maybe there's some way that he could get it up higher. I'm sure if someone taught him how to get his IQ higher, maybe it's like, you know, I don't go around calling people retarded like Trump. But he thinks he can get away with saying my arms look like a fucking mannequin, like he wants to fucking shatter him and hurt me, like he thinks he's better than me because I walked into a fucking grocery store to feel happy and okay being myself with the foods that I enjoyed, because I got one of the foods that I enjoyed and the rest of it was, and all the other foods were to kiss ass to other people, be kind to my parents, other people like doing this shit the entire fucking time till I never wanted to go in that grocery store again. Or, you know, and still am supposed to, like, somebody wants me to go in there and be nice to him after he acted like my arm is a fucking mannequin.
How long ago was that? How long ago?
No one ever did that to me.
When did that happen?
No one ever threatened me to have a mannequin fucking arm that could come on and off or some shit like that.
When did that happen?
That's when I say, fuck you.
When did that happen?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
What would you do if somebody's going to try to act like your arm is a fucking mannequin that he could take off or destroy or do some shit to you?
I would basically walk away and ignore him.
And would you ever go back in there if they did that, something like that to you 10 times?
I would.
Every time you went in there, you had to get food that other people liked to fit in with it, how it is.
Well, I never had that situation.
Well, you know what?
Well. What?
It used to not be that way. That grocery store was good. The entire time I could get food that I wanted. You know, I kind of had to get cheese. When I moved to Roanoke, I had to start eating cheese and dairy.
Why? There are a lot of vegetarians in this town.
There is okay. If there's anyone in Roanoke, and anywhere can tell me, is there one vegan? Is there one long time? Is there a long time vegan? And they want to say long time, love me long time, some shit like that. Because has anyone been a vegan here in Roanoke for more than a few years?
I know people who have been vegan who are
for
in their
ethical
30s,
reasons. For ethical reasons, because they don't want to hurt the animals. Not as a trend. Not as a trend for they think it'll kind of help their life. That they don't care.
Their whole life.
Who? I've never met one of them. Every man. If I was a vegan of 14, well, not 14 years, because I started eating vegetarian when I got here. But I was a vegan for 5 years in Los Angeles before I got here. And when I got here, I just started eating cheese and dairy. And I was okay with that. I changed the way I was. It didn't bother me that much, but I was still kind of a vegan. And I ate cheese and dairy. And then eventually being here long enough, I had to eat all heavy meats at every meal for a year or two, a while. You know, that's what it became. And I think if I was in California, sometimes I think maybe they would have never done that to me. And I prefer vegan. But you don't really, you're one of the people who just don't really understand that you can really be vegan and really be vegan and not put a little bit of meat in it. You know, you just don't do that.
From 1968 until 1991, I was what was known as a vegetarian. And I was also, I ate macrobiotics.
You know what vegan isn't? You know what it isn't? Carbs, added sugar, stuff that doesn't have enough protein, things that are not quality protein, cheese substitutes from fucking 1985 that weren't the macro, the opposite of the macro, cheese substitute made out of some kind of chemicals and shit that they pretend was fake cheese. That's not what I like to eat.
Macrobiotic is just
I know what macro stuff is. That's one of my favorite things to eat. You know, but where do I get it?
Here.
How?
How do
I go to the co-op and get it?
For 2 weeks,
They have it here.
All I served you was vegetables and rice.
They have it at the Natural Foods Co-op. But the people who I know are kind of against it. And they don't want me to just get to eat however I feel. You know, I'd like the co-op to deliver, because the problem is I like Kroger. I like Kroger, but it's okay. It's okay, but it's not my really, really favorite food that I enjoy the most. It feels best to me, which is kind of what they have in the co-op. But the co-op's a little more expensive.
Well, John, you can buy vegetables at Kroger.
I'm afraid to say. It gives me stress to even
You can get organic vegetables. You know, fresh organic vegetables at Kroger. You can get brown rice at Kroger. And it's cheaper than the co-op. And it's the same stuff. And I cooked it for you for 2 weeks.
I hope I move to LA.
Good.
Whether or not it's right or wrong.
Sell this house, move to LA. Go for it.
Because I'll still do right.
You will.
Because I'll still do right. I'll still follow God and Jesus. I'll still be good. And I can eat whatever food I feel like without anyone fucking trying to tell me how to fucking eat.
That's right.
Meal.
That's right.
Every meal, how I eat in the privacy of my own house. Because
so why don't you figure out,
you know what? You think I can even drive across town to the co-op without them knowing that? You're not going to Kroger? You're not going to Kroger? You're not going to Kroger?
John, there are a lot of people.
We're going to get you if we see the fucking co-op groceries in your car next in the window through it. We know you went across the entire town and didn't even stop at Kroger. You didn't even stop at Kroger. And guess what? Guess who the owners of Kroger? Guess what they eat? Not vegan, but they have, they kind of go along with the opposite of their beliefs that happen in there because they're nice. They're nice. They're really nice. I can't live that way.
Well, then don't.
It's too different.
Go to California.
When I go out there in society,
yeah.
I'm afraid to be myself other than doing God's work. It's almost all God's work. Being like a petty little fucking person who's so kind to everyone, and by some miracle, I don't know, but maybe it's different. Maybe it's kind of different. But can I really be myself for the things I feel actually cool about?
Yes, you can.
It's cool
can. John, you can do
that. Or is
that.
it only God's work? Is it all God's work for all others and nothing for myself out there? Because what do I do to enjoy myself out there? Behind bars. The fuck? Enjoy myself. I got the thought behind bars. Is that from you or my dad? Which one of you is that from?
Neither of us. It's that thought comes from you. That.
Because my dad doesn't want me to enjoy being alive because he's jealous of my youth. Because at his age, he doesn't want me to go out there every day.
Your father wants you
stand up for him so he doesn't die.
Your father's a good man. He wants you happy.
It can't be Roanoke. So I
go to California.
I hope it's not him, but he doesn't understand the things that I enjoy the most and wants me to be like him.
Go to California.
I can't. I don't know if I can keep standing up for him, standing up for his health, standing up for him so much because I felt guilt that I finally stood up for myself at one time. And when I finally stood up for myself, I had to work at things that he did, and it was like there was almost no way away from him. And I don't know if that's right or I don't know if that's right because I don't want to hurt him. And
go to California, John.
I don't want him to die, but
So let's go to California.
I can't.
When the snow melts, let's go to California.
To keep hoping he's okay, it brings me he has brought me so close to death that he's okay. And when he wants to hear something, it may be me assuming about him that he thought, oh, he wants to hear that I'm not gay or something like that. And maybe that's really him, or maybe that's because I got so pissed off and had enough of it that I was like, all he ever wants to hear is if I'm, waking up early, eating red meat, not being gay, kind of against blacks, because I said that when I was really pissed off years ago, but that's not really who he is. That's not really who he is. So I don't know if that's who he is or my own fault for assuming it was him and blurting out.
I would say it's more that.
I don't know what
your assumption.
But I don't want him. I don't want to die, and I don't want him to die. And it's so difficult to try to continue standing up for him and honoring him, hoping he lives longer. And it has brought me so close to death with depression.
Why did it bring you close to death?
Sometimes, but other times, I can let that go now. I've it's been so much depression that I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to kill myself. So I don't know about that, but the past.
So what would make you happy, John? Let's go do what makes you happy.
I want to live. I actually want to live again. I want to live.
Good.
And I'm not going to kill myself.
Good.
I don't see a reason to kill myself.
Exactly.
I think the worst of it, I leave town, leave my special place where I think maybe God wanted me to live, but I feel like I can't go big here and be myself. I feel like I can't go big here and be myself at the things that I personally enjoy. Like walking down a warm street with no physical problems, feeling good and happy. In the past 10 months, I've been 20 or 30 pounds overweight. So stressed out that my fucking forehead is stressed right now when I'm talking, making me feel worse. Probably, and feel wrong to try to look good, being this agitated, being this annoyed as I'm talking. I don't want to associate me feeling good and happy and looking good with some bad things. I don't want to become a worker of unrighteousness. But they already did that to me to stand up for the opposite of everything I believed in, besides and even God and Jesus, going against God and Jesus, and that happened to me there. So is it a grudge I hold because that happened and it's not their fault? And why? I don't know. Is there protein in this? What is this?
Vegetables?
Where's the protein? So you're on their team. You're on my parents' team and you're on Kroger's team.
No, John, we've been stuck up
There's
here.
There's carbs in this.
Yeah.
What are you trying to do to my body?
Nothing.
What are you doing?
I'm taking
What are you
them
doing? Where's the protein?
John, we've been up here. We haven't been able to go and shop.
Carbs.
We run out of
Oh.
food. So
Oh.
I just
Oh.
use a canned food.
Why
For
would I say
2
that?
weeks,
Small
I
farm.
baked you. I made you total vegan food, and you wouldn't eat it. And now,
there's a little bit of meat in it.
yes, because it came from a can. Because we have no more food left. Okay, guys,
It's not that bad.
battery
The meat's
is rolling
okay.
down, so I'm just gonna
Yeah.
say
It's just
talk
meat.
to you later.
The Bible says it's okay to eat meat. The Bible says it's okay to eat meat.
Bye.